Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Welsh, president of Nexus Strategy. We're a consulting firm. Today, we're talking all things advisor tech here in wealth management. Joining me from the Panoramix team are Chris Hastings, CEO, and Joe Lucking, Director of Operations. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. I'm excited to have Chris from Panoramix on the show today. So, Chris, tell us about yourself, your background, and how you came to starting Panoramix, which is now a industry-leading platform for many advisors.
Hi, Tim. Thanks. Thanks. Great to be here. Yeah, you know what? I started actually as a computer programmer in 1988, working in the insurance industry, and worked up into working on enterprise solutions for insurance carriers. And in 2004, we started Sapphire Software Services, which was primarily a consulting company, but we really liked writing enterprise solutions and pieces of software rather than consulting. And so we were looking for the next best thing. We happened to get on a group of financial advisors in the Minneapolis area that were looking for better technology, specifically something that is a little bit more simple than what they had, more affordable, and focusing on billing and forms reporting. So that's kind of where Panoramix was born. We started working on that in about 2011 and got where we are today. But what we really have stayed laser focused on, I believe, is billing and performance reporting in a simple fashion and an affordable fashion.
Great. Also joining us is Joe. Joe, you're the Director of Operations at Panoramix. How did you end up there?
I spent 34 years with Wells Fargo. Longish story made a little bit shorter in that capacity. I hired Sapphire Software as a consultant, and they consistently outperformed all of the other consultants and even our own staff on many issues and projects. And so when the opportunity came along to retire from Wells Fargo, I had several conversations with Chris and mutually decided that joining Panoramix would be a good move. And it certainly has proven to be a good move for me. I've been with Panoramix for just over 2 years now, and I feel very, very fortunate to be here.
Fantastic. Yeah, we definitely a great depth of executive talent at the companies. So, Chris, you talked laser focus around billing and reporting. What are some of the trends you're seeing in advisors, techs generally, and then in those two categories specifically?
Well, Tim, I think that, FinTech is kind of a risk-averse industry, and so they lag behind in general, the technology that exists for some of the more cutting-edge things out there. But automation in itself is kind of a continuous process. It's always, even if the functionality doesn't necessarily change, the behind-the-scenes workings of it does. And I think a lot of that is going on specifically in things like APIs and integrations between partners become more and more readily available and easier to do. A fascinating book that came out in 1998 called Unleashing the Killer App actually talks about marketing and how the internet changed it. But in that book, they have a concept called a killer app. And they referenced the stirrup back in the day that it changed the world. A simple little thing of putting a stirrup so people can sit on horses actually changed warfare and changed kingdoms and changed everything else. And they look back at the stirrup as something that's a killer app. And then they kind of moved to today, which is the internet is a killer app. And nobody was really quite sure how it was going to be a killer app. And we still, I don't think, have gotten to the full potential of what it can be used for. But certainly a lot of the things that we are doing with big data and integration and everything else have been made possible by the internet. Even some of the blockchain stuff we may be seeing in the future as well. But another thing they say in there, which I find also interesting, is they have a quote that says, "Technology is not the solution, it's the problem." And what they're referencing there is that if somebody else gets technology that makes them slicker and leaner and more efficient, then in this day and age, you have to adopt that as well, or you're not going to be able to keep up. And so, for the few that, kind of are early adopters, that it's not a problem, but everybody else it winds up being. So technology, isn't always the solution for you. It's creating the problems that existed. And so that's why we're here. Let's create problems for people. But specifically, as a couple of things I think you're going to be seeing in the industry coming up, AI is going to be used a little bit more, and that is used. I think that term is used a little bit more than it needs to be. But it's kind of some rules-based decision making that takes some of that onus off of the advisor. Is you're starting to see a lot more and more, and you saw it a little bit before with the robos, but I think you're going to see that more. in some of the analytics that are going to be coming out. And then, screens and the way things look on the web or on the desktop or whatever, that's always, it's very fashionable. It changes up over time, and you always have to keep up. So you're going to see everybody's going to have some facelifts, and the new way to show this on a screen, or the cool, it used to be a pie chart, and then it was a donut chart, and then whether it's 3D or not, I mean, that stuff kind of changes. So you're always going to see stuff like that on a continuous basis, I think.
Great. So it looks like you gave us a nice tour of history, from horses to graphical user interfaces all the way up to AI. So Joe, you're an operations pro. What are you seeing out there? What's on top of advisors' minds right now?
Increasingly, I've found advisors are looking for alternative methods of doing their billing. Even just 2 years ago, the most common way to set things up was to use an end-of-period balance and bill in advance. And in the last 4 months, there hasn't been a single breakaway that's set their billing model up that way. They've either separated their fees out so that they charge a lower AUM and an annual financial planning fee, for example, or some other type of fee, or they've gone to looking at billing in arrears on an average balance, or if they do stick with a billing in advance, they're using some type of cash flow analysis for the prior period in order to adjust those fees. The other thing that I've noticed is that I'm getting more questions about, well, what should I do, as opposed to how do I do X? And so from a technology perspective, I can talk about the pros and cons of doing things, but always remind people that, compliance is still your king. So make sure you talk to your compliance folks about that.
Yep, wise advice for sure. So it sounds like, Chris, with all this complexity, advisors are fantastic business owners and working with clients, but they might make a mistake or two on the tech side. So I'm sure from your position, working with hundreds and hundreds of advisors, you might have seen one or two. I mean, what are some of the key areas advisors could avoid if they really, put their mind to it?
Well, I think that, just as a whole, people they resist change, so they hang on to antiquated technologies like spreadsheets and Outlook, when there are far better things out there. And that gets better all the time, but yesterday's Outlook is today's, who knows, Google. I doubt that, but you never know. So as things become better and better, adopting that, I think, is what people need to do a little bit more readily, which they do not. But the largest thing we see without question is that people overcomplicate their billing. It should be a simple process, and it never is. And because we have solutions like, what Panoramix can do, which is extraordinarily flexible in billing, as others are out there, people start to think, oh, well, maybe I should do that. If you allow it, maybe I should do it. But just because you can do something doesn't make it a good idea. And I think people need to just simplify their lives, simplify their billing. And that is, I think, one of the larger things we see. Yeah,
keep it simple. I think stupid is right phrase.
Keep it simple.
Yep. Exactly right. So, Joe, any anecdote to share in terms of what you mentioned? Compliance is your king. Anything you're seeing out there, or an anecdote or two that the audience can benefit from?
Sure. I'd just like to reiterate what Chris said. Using the wrong tool for the wrong job. You don't use PowerPoint as your word processor, and you certainly shouldn't have hundreds of spreadsheets and call it a billing system, because it's not. Also, in terms of looking at tools. Trying to find one that does absolutely everything might not be the best solution, because it's kind of like a sound mixer in a garage band trying to make everything louder than everything else. Might not be the best solution for you. In terms of keeping it simple, I've seen advisors have 40 different fee schedules. Or 30 different payout schedules, or even 150 different models that they're trying to manage. And that's, again, it falls into the category of just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I would just advise that when you're looking at your operations, be very careful what you make complicated, because that just increases your costs.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some good wisdom in there. And so, Chris, I know you guys have spent a lot of time and effort on thought leadership, on white papers, helping the industry, digest some of these more complex items. Can you tell us about that? I understand you guys have been up for a number of awards for this series. What's sort of the top topics that you're writing about, and what's resonating out there?
Well, we are kind of excited about what we have done as far as white papers go and getting recognized by like the wealthies and things for that. In general, we're always going to talk about excuse me, what we know, which is billing and performance reporting, and technology as a whole. If we want to weigh in on some generic concept, but our most popular one that we ever did was actually our first big one, which was why is performance reporting so expensive? Which we kind of went through the process of what is involved in that, getting data from the custodians, kind of walking through and putting a price on and a value on all of that, and it was definitely our most popular one. We also did a little controversial one called the myth of GIPS compliance, just to kind of set the record straight on what advisors should and shouldn't be worrying about for GIPS compliance. My favorite personally is the methods of computing performance. I'm kind of a math guy, so I really kind of got into going through all the different ways you can compute performance, what they mean, how they work. Probably not the favorite of many people but me, but was my favorite. And then now we have one, just what we've just been talking about before, which is billing practices. We have one coming out next month, which kind of hammers home some good practices for billing. And we've actually done that one a couple times in a couple different flavors, but it's always good to be updated.
Yeah, I think the industry appreciates that insight. And you mentioned performance reporting costs so much. I read it on your website. It says Panoramix is the best value in the industry, which I'm sure it is. What kind of goes into that value? It sounds like service and features and functionality and price. What's sort of your secret sauce there?
Well, so we have to prove that what we said on our website. Is that what you're saying here? So best value, what does that mean? I mean, now as a math guy, I would start with, okay, well, you got your price, and then what number of features, divide the two, and then what's the kind of the best number there, lowest number there. But that doesn't really write. And so then, how about useful features? Because you can throw a bunch of features in that nobody cares. So I think that's a good estimator. What's useful, and then what's it cost? And I think that when you look at that for billing and performance, I think that we have as many or more useful features as any other product that's out there. Our price is absolutely, other than a few rare instances, we're going to be as inexpensive as anybody. And sometimes, from some of the bigger ones, we'll be 1/5 the cost. So I think that that's there. But ultimately, let your clients vote. There are surveys out there that will rank, software and customer satisfaction, which I think is value, and or at least it's one way of representing value. And we've won the T3. We've been number one in portfolio management system in the T3 survey 2 years running for customer satisfaction. So that's why we say we're the best value.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned a ton of features. So Joe, switching over to you, we want them to adopt some features, not all of them, obviously, if they can do too much with it. But what's sort of your tips on getting advisors and their companies to actually go for these type of programs?
Well, I always say get your hands on it, get your data, get the bits of information that you need for your customers, the customers and the customers you care about, get it into the system, and start using that tool. Use it every day for a month. Run your side-by-side comparisons to your existing systems and tools, methodologies, and then look at spend some time with the training and documentation and reference material, things like that. Check out their quality. Test your support mechanisms, see how they're working out, and then make a decision. And that's really the best way to go about doing an evaluation.
Yeah, sounds very good. So Chris, is there feature bloat out there? Some of these platforms have been around for 20 years and they keep adding more and more and more. It just seems like it can be more complicated than it's maybe worth. So what's your philosophy on that topic?
There is, but it's also interesting is that you can't get rid of it. I mean, because you're going to have that one advisor that's using it. And I know that, you'll have the consultants will say, oh, get rid of it because if nobody's using it, but then you're going to annoy somebody if you take it away. But I think there's feature bloat. And I also think that, some people want a one-stop shop. I mean, that's a mentality. It's, like it's a religion. I don't want to have 5 vendors. I want to have one. And some people say, I don't want to have one vendor. I want to have 5. I can, have competition there. So I don't know that there's a one-size-fits-all answer to whether or not you should try to have everything in one or not. But what we have always said is that we want to do the best we can for the places we want to do, and then integrate with anybody else, and to give the advisors the choice that they want. But feature bloat, yeah, we can say that we don't have that problem because we're younger than some of the other things. But 5 years from now, maybe we will, and then I'll say, yeah, that's not a problem. But now I'll say, yeah, absolutely, it's a problem. There's a bunch of stuff out there that you should go away.
Gotcha. So we're going to wrap up here. Just one last question for you two gentlemen. Crazy year 2020. What are you looking forward to in 2021? Maybe we'll start with you, Joe, and then we'll finish up with Chris.
Sure. The thing that I'm excited about is that, continuing to grow. We're on a really good trajectory. We've got a great product roadmap, and we've got some strong goals in many, many areas, including customer onboarding and support, and continuing that tradition that we've built. The pace is vibrant, and it's invigorating, and every day offers me the opportunity to not only the opportunity to learn something new, but the requirement to learn something new. And to me, that's really exciting.
Fantastic. So Chris, bring us home 2021. What are you looking at?
For us, I think we were talking a little bit earlier, facelift. Everything needs a facelift. We are doing we're actually focusing on our client portal in the first part of 2021, which is an area that didn't used to be as important as it is now. And, for the lack of a better word, ours is a little bit uglyish. so we're going to, make that look better. TD Ameritrade has always been our best custodial integration partner. And I think I've heard that maybe they won't be around much longer. So I don't know. We're trying to hedge our bets there. But anyway, we've been working with Schwab quite a bit on enhancing our relationship with them. And we're working on their APIs to do account opening through their system, and automatic billing and things like that. We'll see some of that stuff coming up. As far as new features, and we always want to offer things that we feel can be beneficial, and if they're a little bit off of billing and performance, not massively in depth, but something simple that people might be able to use. And that we're starting to implement a client goal tracking system where you can actually run some statistics out to say, here's what I'm doing, here's where my portfolio is going to be based on some metrics. And, am I going to be where I want to be when I retire, and have some reports that go around that? Not a full functioning financial planning tool, but just some goal tracking and analysis. And also we're going to enhance our rebalancing stuff. We're not going to do a full trading platform. That's not what we mean to do, but we do have all the data that shows, where you're wavering. And so we can kind of put a little bit more stuff around there. So those are some things that we're going to be doing in 2021.
That's fantastic. Sounds like a great next 12 months coming up. Well, I want to thank Chris and Joe for joining us today. My name is Tim Welsh from Nexus Strategy, talking all things advisor tech and wealth management. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.